Hello friends, welcome to Simple Technical Solutions. I am Sunrit Hazra and in today's tutorial, I will show you how to create text in Blender. Text is a vital element in 3D design. Whether you are working on motion graphics, animations or even creating logos, by the end of this tutorial, you will have a firm grasp of creating and modifying text for your projects. In this video, I will not only show you how to create text but also how to customize it, add styles, add materials, etc. So now without any further ado, let's get started. Now let's open up Blender. And in Blender we have all the default things around and we can get started with adding our text. First I would like to just delete this default cube. Now let's add text. To add text, you can simply press Shift A and then you can just head over to this text and click on it. But also you can search text. So that's one more way how you can add it. Now before we do anything, let's just rotate this text by the Z axis 90 degrees and by the Y axis 90 degrees. Now this looks okay and it has aligned with our view. Of course we can also align our view like this, but let's keep it like this. I'm going to show you how you can actually edit the text. Just like you edit any object's geometry by pressing tab and going to edit mode, you can also press tab in this one and go to edit mode. But in this time, this will edit the text instead of editing the geometry. So you can type in anything you want. So I'm just going to write welcome to Blender. So now let's press tab again to get out of edit mode. Now next we will be editing the properties of the text, and if you want to edit the properties, you have to go to data in the properties, and in there we are getting a lot of things like shape, texture space, geometry, font, paragraph, text boxes and paper model islands. Let's dive into each of them one by one. So first we are getting shape, and in shape we have 4 things: resolution preview U, render U, fast editing and fill mode. Resolution preview U adjusts the smoothness of the text curve when displayed in the 3D viewport. So you see, if you decrease it completely, the text we are having looks weird, but when you increase it, you are adding more geometry to your text. So if we could just zoom in to the text, you could see when we are increasing the resolution, you are adding more geometry to these shapes and curves, making your text look more smoothened in the 3D viewport. So next we are having render U, and this render U sets the resolution of the text curves for rendering. So this resolution preview U is for the viewport and the render U is for rendering. Next you got fast editing. In fast editing, it is serving the purpose of speeding up the editing temporarily by simplifying the text geometry in the viewport. So if you're dealing with a lot of text in your scene, then this fast editing might really help you. Next we get fill mode. This fill mode determines how the text geometry is filled. Next we get fill mode. Fill mode determines how the text geometry is filled. This includes none, black, front and both. So this none leaves the text without any outline or any facet. This back fills only the back of the text, not the front. Next we got front. In this front, it fills only the front of the text, leaving the back black. And then you got both. In this both, the both front and back are filled completely. So that's what we all get in shape. So next we are getting texture space. In texture space we have auto texture space, texture space location and texture space size. This auto texture space, when enabled, automatically calculates the texture space based on the bounding box of the object. And when it is disabled, it allows manual adjustment of the text. So if you turn this off, you can adjust all of these values manually. But if you turn this on, everything is just already done. You cannot adjust them manually. So let's turn this off so we can proceed into the next ones. So the next we are getting texture space location. This specifies the origin of the texture space and this is useful when fine tuning where the texture starts on your object. So all of these things are coming into use when you are adding texture to your object. So next, if you are going to texture space size, this adjusts the size of the texture space. Changing this can influence how textures are applied, particularly for procedural textures. Now if you talk about the practical usage, you can modify the texture space to adjust how patterns like noise, marble or wood are mapped into the object. These features are particularly useful when precise control over texture placement and scaling is required, like in logos or detailed texturing tasks. Till then, this is actually not really useful. I mean, if you're having some texture for your text, then this section is really crucial, but if you're not having any texture, then you do not need this section. So let's go to the next. Next, you are getting geometry. In geometry, you are getting a lot of control over your text, and this section helps you to edit the geometry of the text, obviously. So in geometry, you are getting offset, extrude, taper object, taper radius, and also some bevel options. Let's get into each one by one. So you see this offset, this actually edits the offset of what your text looks like. So if you are adding more offset, your text looks more bold and thick. But actually when you are increasing it, the text gets really glitchy, so do not give much offset to your text, otherwise they will be very glitchy. But if you want to make your text thinner, then this is really useful. So I'm just going to keep the offset at like 0.005. So next we are getting extrude. This extrude adds thickness to your text along the opposite axis. So that's how our extrude looks like. I'm just going to keep like this much. And next we are getting this taper object. This adds a curve object name that defines the taper or width of your text. And with this taper radius, you are getting override, multiply and add. So this determines how the effective radius of the spline point is computed when a taper object is specified. This simply allows you to use another object like a curve to taper or curve the text. This taper effect scales the thickness of the text along its length, and is useful for artistic designs or animations. So let's just leave this and next go to bevel. This bevel adds realism to your 3D text by softening the edges, and this bevel looks like this. I'm going to keep like this much of bevel, 0.05, and you can also adjust the resolution, and in this resolution, just like in the shape ones, this will add more geometry to the bevel. If you zoom in, you can see this more properly. So let's keep this like 6 or 5. And this fill caps is used for beveled curves. So now let's move on to the next one. After geometry, next we are having font. This font can be regular, bold, italic or bold and italic both. And you can also transform some properties of this font. So if you want font to be applied to your text, you actually need to download them. And if you're not having any fonts, well, you can just get to Windows folder and choose some font. So let's just click on this, open font, and now we will just go to C drive, and then we will get a lot of fonts to choose. If you're not having any fonts downloaded, then this can really help. I'm going to select Agency FB font. So this is the font that I've selected, and there are some like glitchy things going on with this. So let's decrease the offset. Now we have already selected the regular font, and if you want to make this bold, then you have to also add a bold font. I'm not getting into all those, but if you're just going to transform, you can also edit a lot of properties of the text. So you can change the font size just like we do in MS Word. Let's keep this at like 2 is okay, 1 is okay. And now we are getting the sheer. This is the italicness of the text. Actually, italicness is not actually a word, I've just said it. This is the sheer. You can also adjust it any ways you want. but simply you can say that this is like italic one which you are having in MS Word. Next we got object font, and you can also add a text on curve if you are having any curves in your scene. And you are also getting underline position. You can also add an underline if you want. So now let's go to the next one. So next we are getting paragraph. In paragraph we are having two things, alignment and spacing. So if you want to explore the paragraph section, you need some more lines in the text. So if you are hitting tab and press enter, so that we are having some more lines in our text. And this editing can be done just like we do in our normal text editing apps like MS Word, WordPad or Notepad. So now this is actually like a paragraph. Each of these are a paragraph. So in contrast, this paragraph section provides tools to control the alignment, spacing and layout of your paragraph. This is particularly useful when working with multi-line text or creating formatted text layouts. So first let's go to alignment. Let's press tab again first to get out of the edit mode. Okay, now let's go to alignment, and in this alignment, extremely simple thing, you can select horizontal or vertical alignment. This horizontal alignment can choose center, left, right, justify or flush. So if you are choosing center, everything will be centered. If you are choosing left, it will be aligned to the left, and if you are choosing right, it will be aligned to the right, and if you are choosing justify, the text will be justified. Next we are getting the vertical alignment. You can align your text to the top baseline, to the middle, or to the bottom baseline, or to the bottom. I'm going to choose the middle and center. Now next we are getting the spacing. This spacing adjusts the spacing between different elements in your text layout. First we are getting the character spacing. Of course it changes the distance between your characters, and this works like this. Let's keep it 1. And next we are getting word spacing. This changes the distance between the words. These are some things that can be animated to make your scene even more better. So if you're animating this spacing, then this will look really great. But let's just not get into that. Now next we are getting line spacing. If you're adding more lines, then you can also adjust the spacing between these lines. Let's keep it 1. And next we are getting the offset. This offset is horizontal offset from the object origin. See, this is the offset, and this is the vertical offset. Let's keep both of them 0. So that's what you get in paragraph section of text properties. So now let's move to the next one. Next we are getting text boxes that allows the creation of multiple text boxes, obviously. And these text boxes are useful for designing text that flows between defined regions. So if you're not wanting your text to be infinite in its horizontal axis, just like this, you see, if you are removing all the enter things in our scene, in our text, see, there are no limits to extending this text. So if you want your text to be in some defined regions, then you need text boxes. So let's just hit add text box, and you can select the size of the text box. See, if you are keeping this 0, the text box is non-existent, and this is how you can adjust the size, adjust the x-axis, y-axis and all. Usually while dealing with adding text in MS products like PowerPoint, Word or anything else, we usually draw the text box first and then we start typing. But in here we actually start typing first and then we actually define how we add the text box. So you can also adjust this before if you want. It's always up to your requirement. I'm keeping this like this, and this is the object X, Y and all of the values. So let's make the text as it was before. Now in this you can also adjust the offset. So if you are adjusting the offset in some way, you can actually make this align to the center. and you can also adjust the size of this. So we have selected it as overflow. You can also select scale to fit and truncate. In this, the text would go outside the text boxes. So if you're adjusting something like this, see, the text is actually getting outside of the box. So now let's move on to the next one. So next we are getting paper model islands. Paper model islands is an option related to UV mapping of text objects. It is primarily useful when preparing 3D objects like text for techniques such as unwrapping for paper models or creating unfolded UV maps for text. If you want to make use of this paper model islands, we have to first unfold. Now what is this actually unfolding? Unfolding generally refers to the process of UV unwrapping, which is the technique used to flatten a 3D object surface into a 2D plane. This is especially useful for texturing, as it allows you to apply 2D textures onto 3D models by creating a UV map. So for this scene, this paper model islands is not supported, and I am not going into that because this will make the video exceptionally long. So instead of explaining all the left part, I'm going to show you how to add materials to the text. So before that, let's just hit Z2 to get into the material preview. And now let's go to the material. So let's add a new material, and you can give any base color, or if you want you can also give any texture. I'm going to give here a noise texture. I'm giving a Voronoi texture instead. This looks really good now, and here of course you can also adjust anything if you want, and you can definitely create a very nice scene out of this. So that was all for today. Hope you liked this video and learned something new. Thanks for watching.